Hello everyone. So today we are going to start with the remaining part of the chapter tissues. In the previous class we studied that there are two different types of tissues as they are divided so that we can study them easily. They are called as plant tissues and animal tissues. In the previous class we have already discussed about plant tissues. Plant tissues are those which are found in plants, and tissues means a group of cells which are doing some specific function. So similarly, animal tissues will be those group of cells which are found in animals, and they are categorically different from animal tissues because we know that plant cell is different from animal cell. So that group of cells is also going to be different. So we are studying in today's class about the animal tissues. As far as animal tissues are concerned, there are four main types of animal tissues. So what we can say that animal tissues, they are of four main types. These four main types are epithelial, connective, muscular and nervous. Epithelial tissues, they are found in the outer and inner lining of the body. So as we know that from outside animal body is covered by skin. Similarly, from inside of the body is covered from the epithelial cells. So that means what are epithelial tissue? Epithelial tissue consists of those specialized cells which cover the body from outside and from inside. These tissues, they are further of three different types depending upon what is their shape and structure. This differentiation, that is epithelial, connective, muscular and nervous, this is differentiation on the basis of location and function. Whereas this differentiation which we are going to study now for epithelial tissue, that is on the basis of their shape and structure. On the basis of shape and structure, epithelial tissue is of three types, that is squamous, cuboidal and columnar. Squamous means square-like, cuboidal means cube-like and columnar means column-like. So that is basically these words taken from the shape which these cells they are having. So in further study we will be studying about where they are present, what type of function they are doing and how they can be differentiated from each other. Second type of animal tissue on basis of location and function is connective tissue. As it is clear from the name, connective means joining two parts. So these tissues, they are connecting two parts of the body. Which two parts they may be connecting? That may be connecting tissue to tissue, connecting bone to tissue and connecting one organ to other organ. So on the basis of this, they are of three types. That is connecting tissue, skeletal tissue fluid tissue. Now this differentiation is on the basis of nature and type of cells which are present in them. Connecting tissue is further of three different types. That is areolar, adipose and fibrous. So we will be talking about three different types of connecting tissues which may be connecting organ to organ or tissue to tissue. Skeletal tissue. This word skeletal means related to bones. So skeletal tissue, it consists of two types of tissues, that is bone which are hard and cartilage which are softer as compared to bone. Cartilages, they are elastic, whereas bones are rigid. But both of these kinds of tissue, they give shape and structure to the body. They are protective in nature also, and we will be studying that bones, they are also storehouse of minerals. Fluid tissue, as it is clear from the name, that it must be liquid. Fluid means which can flow. So fluid tissues are those which can flow. So these tissues, they are of two types, that is blood and lymph. So we will be studying about what are the differences between blood and lymph, and how blood flows and how lymph flows, what are their functions. There are slight differences in their functions also, and where they are present and through what channels or tubes they are taken from one place to other. All these tissues, they help in connecting the body parts, as well as they are also helping in some additional functions which we will be studying in this topic. Next is muscular tissue. Muscular tissue, it takes its name from muscles, and there are three types of muscles on the basis of how they can be controlled and coordinated. Now muscular tissue, they are further divided in three categories, that is striated. Striated means which is having strips, light and dark bands, they are called as striations. Second is non-striated, and third is cardiac. Now we know cardiac word, it is related to heart. So from this it is very easy to remember that muscular tissue, there are three types: striated, which are having light and dark band; non-striated, which are not having light and dark band; and cardiac, which are present in heart. So we will be studying about where these muscles are present and what different functions they are doing. And last type of tissue on the basis of location and function is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue, it is related to brain and spinal cord. So these tissues, they help in understanding the stimuluses and forming and transmitting the responses. We interact with the environment, let it be internal environment or external environment of the body, through these types of tissues. And these tissues, they consist of different types of cells, and we will be studying about all the different types of cells which are forming these different types of tissues, and we also will be studying about their functions. So this is an overview of the topic that we are going to study in this part. So since it is a lengthy topic, I will be discussing these tissues one by one, and we will be studying about their characteristic features. So let us start with the epithelial tissue. epithelial tissue as we have just discussed that this tissue is forming the outer covering and inner covering of the body. So they are forming continuous sheet of cells which line the body from outside and inside. Continuous means that there is no spaces in between. That means cells are joined end to end. They are packed very closely. So because of that, there is no intercellular space present in them. So that is the characteristic feature of epithelial tissue, that they are forming the continuous sheet of cells. They are lining the body from outside and inside. There are no spaces in between them and they are closely packed. So what characteristics we have studied? One thing, that they are continuous sheet. Second thing, they line the body from outside and inside. There are no spaces in between them. That means there are no intercellular spaces. Intercellular means in between the cells, and they are closely packed. So these are 4 characteristic features of epithelial tissue. Let us try to understand where these types of tissues they are located, or what is their location. Location means where will you find them. If you want to study them, then where will you find them. Epithelial tissue, it covers the external surface. So as we have studied that it covers the body from outside. So outside is covered by skin. And there are certain organs which are hollow from inside, like our stomach is hollow from inside, intestine is hollow from inside, rectum. So all these digestive organs, they are hollow from inside. So these organs, they are lined from inside also with the help of these types of tissues. So where will you find them? You will find on outside in skin and inside organs are lined by this tissue. So that means inner side of the stomach, inner side of the intestine, and inner side of your buccal cavity. All these, they are lined by these types of tissues. And if the shape of these cells, they are squarish, then they are squamous. Now you must remember that sometimes you observe animal tissues in the cheek cells. So cheek cells, they are having irregular margins and they are very closely packed. So this type of tissue which are having very less thickness and they are flat to cover more surface, then it is called as squamous. They have a nucleus, they are filled with cytoplasm and all. And cuboidal means if they are thicker, that means they are having some thickness also, then they will be forming the cuboidal tissue. So they will be found in those organs where the lining has to be thick. For example, the inner lining of the buccal cavity, the lining of tongue, the lining of stomach and esophagus, they contain these types of tissues. So they are also nucleated, other things remaining same, only difference is that these cells, they are thicker as compared to squamous. So they are called as cuboidal. And columnar are those which are finger-like or much thicker as compared to their length and breadth. So this type of cells which are present in the inner wall of stomach and intestine, they are columnar in shape. Columnar means pillar-like. So these types of cells which are present in the inner walls of stomach and intestine, they are columnar in shape. In columnar tissue, we find that sometimes the tissue is further differentiated. Like in some cases, they may be having cilia or hair-like projections on them for proper movement of food, or in case of reproductive system also, they are helping in movement of the cells which are present in the body. So these ciliated cells, they help in movement. So then they will be called as ciliated columnar epithelial tissue. In some cases, for example, in case of stomach, these tissues, they may be having small glands also. Then they will be called as glandular epithelium. So the function of glandular epithelium will be that they will be producing certain secretions which are useful to the body. So these are three different types of epithelial tissue which are present in our body, and depending upon their structure and particular function which they are doing, they may be present in different parts and differentiated accordingly. I hope you remember what is differentiation. Differentiation means taking up of some specific function, and to do that specific function, the cell may have altered its shape and structure to some extent so that it can do that function well. So these are differentiated cells which are performing some specific function. If you are asked that where these tissues are present, then there may be slight variation in the location where you will find these tissues. Then next part, we are going to study about different types of connective tissue. Connective tissue is of three different types, that is connecting tissue, skeletal tissue and fluid tissue. Connecting tissue, it helps in binding the tissues, whereas skeletal tissue, as we have discussed, that it consists of bone and cartilage which help in giving shape and protection to the body, and we know that bones, they can store minerals also in them. Similarly, cartilage, because they are flexible, so they give protection as well as they keep that body part soft. For example, you have cartilage in your ear, you have cartilage in your nose. So these parts, they help in making the part flexible as well as it gives it shape. We must remember that cartilages, they are present on the ends of larger bones also, where they provide cushioning. The third type of tissue, that is fluid tissue, which consists of blood and lymph. So here what we see, that there is a lot of variety in these types of tissues. We must try to understand that why tissues they are so much differentiated. The reason, as we discussed, that main reason is that they have to do specialized functions, and for doing that specialized function they get slightly differentiated, and because they are doing that function and for that they are adapted also, so because of that they can do that function very well. So this is a brief introduction about the connective tissue. So we will be taking this topic and discussing it in the next class, and there we will be studying that what are their different types, where they are located, and what are their specific functions. We will also study about differences in bone and cartilage, differences in bone, blood and lymph, so that we can understand it better. So till then you can revise this topic by drawing these figures by your own self, so that you learn to draw these figures, because they are important from the examination point of view, and it will give you better understanding too. So that is all for today. In next class we will be studying about connective tissue.